Hello writer, and welcome back to my life. Writer Wednesday, where I give you my best tips and advice on the art and the business of writing and tell you how I do what I do as an indie author. Today we're going to talk about how to manage your beta reader feedback, how I do it now and how I've done it in the past. First, I just want to clarify one point that I see a lot of people getting confused about in indie author spaces. Your advanced reader team are not your beta readers, or they shouldn't be. Beta readers are the glorious, wonderful, majestic, and angelic beings who volunteer to read your book while it's still very much in the editing and redrafting process. They are not reading a done book. They are reading a book that you are still working on, that still has flaws and things to be fixed. And their job is to help you find those flaws and fix those things. Your advanced reader team is something else. This is your team of dedicated readers who receive arcs of your completed book shortly before publication. Their job is to spread the news of your book by talking about it online and by leaving reviews on Amazon or whatever other book retail space. Some writers conflate these two things, but they are in fact very different. So I've managed my beta readers in two very different ways in the past. The first book for which I ever solicited beta readers was Rebel Yell, the literary fiction novel I wrote just before I started writing the books of Underworld. For that book, I gathered together a team of interested readers who wanted to help, and I sent them all a copy of the book in progress. And as a side note, though your beta readers are supposed to be reading an incomplete book, this doesn't mean you should send them schlock. Like, I would try to never send beta readers a first draft. You should respect their time enough to have given the book at least a few passes to fix the most glaring errors you can find on your own. Once the book's decently good, and you yourself are no longer able to identify glaring flaws that need correction, that's when you send it to beta readers. So for Rebel Yell, I requested that every reader send me an email after every chapter with their thoughts, and I had a list of questions to help them isolate any problems they had. How was the pacing of this chapter? How was the characterization? Too fast or too slow? That sort of thing. And I put together a spreadsheet with a column on the left of all my readers and then a column for each chapter. And I put each reader's feedback for each chapter into that spreadsheet. This let me look down the spreadsheet and see if there were any common notes where multiple readers had said the same thing. Because as I've talked about before, if one reader doesn't like one aspect of your book, you might be able to take that with a grain of salt. If a majority of readers notice the same flaw, that's definitely something you need to fix. I also noted the date and time that each reader sent their feedback on each chapter. And the purpose of that was to help me try to isolate any chapters where readers felt compelled to put the book down. For example, if most readers stopped on chapter 8 and didn't send me their chapter 9 feedback until the next day, that meant that chapter 8 maybe wasn't as gripping as it could be, because most readers felt like they were able to put the book down at that point. So this is one way to do this. The plus side is that it gives a really super clear representation of the data you receive from your beta readers. The downside is that it's a lot of administrative work. It takes a long time and it will probably add a lot to your production schedule. Partially because of this extensive beta reading process, Rebel Yell took me 8 months to publish, longer than any book I'd written before or since. Until recently, when Bloodlust took me more than a year. The way I do my beta reading now is much more straightforward, and it's only possible because over the years I've honed my beta reading team into a small group of truly awesome individuals whose feedback I know I can trust 95% of the time. What I'll do now is I'll send the book out to the beta readers, and then I'll go work on another project until I've received feedback from a majority of them. I still ask them to take notes by chapter, and then I remind them when I send them the book to note down any problems they have while they're reading, so they don't read on a few more chapters and say, "Oh wait, what was that problem I had with chapter 10? Ah, well, probably not important." It's important, y'all. Seriously. Once I've received enough feedback for me to start going through it, I read all my beta reader emails at once. This is when I look for common threads or notes that are a problem for the majority of readers, not on a chapter by chapter basis, but throughout their whole commentary of the book. And sometimes I'll go through my manuscript and make broad general notes along the lines of, "This scene needs to be faster, consider cutting this conversation," or whatever. Once I've done that, then I'll go through each email again, but on an individual basis this time. And I will just take each email, go through all the notes in sequence, and make any adjustments necessary. Sometimes these adjustments are quick fixes, sometimes they're more extensive, and again I'll leave myself a note in the manuscript, fix this scene according to Kristen's feedback, or whatever. And usually by the time I'm hitting the later emails, there's only 1 or 2 notes per email that still need to be fixed, because most of the common issues have been addressed in the earlier emails. Now, one last piece of advice about managing your relationship with your beta readers is that you should always respond to them. I don't feel like I should have to say that, but I've seen some authors neglected. In fact, I have beta read for some people who never answered the email I sent them about their book. Just don't do that, please. And if your readers have given you super detailed feedback, give them a super detailed response. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Do not, whatever you do not bat back at their feedback or explain how what they said was actually wrong. Remember what I said about how to survive critique groups, please, and there's a link to refresh yourself on it. Explain how their feedback helped you. Summarize how you changed the manuscript to accommodate their advice, and above all, thank them for the incredibly valuable service they have provided. Good beta readers are a huge boon to the career of any author, traditional or indie. Manage yours well and make sure they know how valuable you know they are. That's all I've got for you today, writer. If you want to support what I do, you should go pick up a Writer Wednesday t-shirt. It tells people you're a writer so you don't have to. You can also become a $5 patron on Patreon and see these videos 2 weeks before anyone else. Thank you so much for watching. Keep writing, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye!